4.2 digs into the idea of slope. What if there's no graph? We were able to count squares on the graph, create little mini triangles to help us figure out the slope. But what if there's no graph? You could draw a graph, plot your points, and then count your squares, but that seems like a lot of work, and drawing a graph is hard. Right? So there's actually a formula you can use to find the slope between 2 points. It's called the slope formula. I know, sometimes you have to look at the name of something and it tells you exactly what it is. This is the formula to find slope. It's called the slope formula. The formula is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And that will give you your slope. Right? These are your points. Your first point, and it doesn't matter which one you consider your first point, is your x1, y1, and your other point is your x2, y2. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so suppose you have 2 points. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. All right, suppose you have your 2 points. You could draw the graph and then count your squares and hope you drew a good graph and that you counted correctly. Or you could just use the formula. Let's start with this point because it's literally the first point they give us. This is your x1 and your y1. The other point is your x2 and your y2. Right? First x, second x. First y, second y. Right? And it doesn't matter which point you start with. You could do it backwards. Then you put it into the formula. M equals y2 minus y1, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. 4 minus 1. 4 minus 1. Right? 3 minus 1 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. So your slope is 2 over 3. That can't be simplified. Isn't that crazy? All right, I'm going to do the odd ones, you're going to do the even ones. That was the opposite last time. Last time I did the even ones, you do the odd ones. Anyway, whatever. As long as we're still recording. Alright, so if you can't remember the formula, write it again. If you write it a few times, you'll remember it and you won't ever have to do this again. But until you memorize it, write it. Write it again, write it again, write it again. And again, label your points so that your brain remembers to put them in the right place. This time, let's start with this one. This is my first x and my first y. My second x and my second y. Now I'm going to put them into the formula. Be careful with your negatives. I'll show you what I mean. This one is going to be y2, 5, minus, because there's a negative in the formula, and your y1 is a negative 5. This is why I said be careful with your negatives. Right? And this is x2 minus x1. Good thing I'm doing this one. There's a lot of negatives. Right? So this is going to become 5 plus 5, which is 10. And this is going to become negative 4 plus 8, which is 4. Both of these can be divided by 2. You're left with 5 over 2. So your slope is 5 over 2. And this is why I told you it's okay to have an improper fraction. Don't turn it into a mixed number. In order to graph with slope, you need it to be a fraction because you need rise over run. Right? Now you know why I told you to leave it in improper fraction. Doesn't matter which point you start with as long as you input it into the formula correctly. My first x, my first y. My second x, my second y. my formula. y2 minus y1, rise. x2 minus x1 is your run, right? This is your rise, and this is your run. All right, so m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's 0 over -2. 0 in the numerator means your answer is going to be 0. Your slope is 0. 0 in the numerator means your answer is going to be 0, so your slope is 0. It's going to be a straight horizontal line. x1, y1, x2, y2. On your guided notes and on your mastery check, I will expect to see the label. x1, y1, x2, y2. And I need you to write the formula at least once on your mastery check, just so that I know you were paying attention. Right? So you'll need to write it at least once on your mastery check. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I will count that as part of the grade. I will count these as part of the grade. All right? M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Careful with your negatives, which is -6 over 2 plus 1, which is -6 over 3, which is -2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. M equals -2. x1, y1, x2, y2. You could write the formula again, but you don't have to. M equals y2 minus y1, 5 minus 6, x2 minus x1. So we have -1 over 1, which is -1. So slope is -1. Now, if the 0 is in the denominator, it's undefined, because that creates the straight up and down vertical line, and that's not okay. That's not okay. All right, so you're going to do 2, 4, 6, and 8, and 10. Good luck.